Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today and your testimony and your willingness to answer extensive questions. General Hyten, in your testimony, you discussed the effectiveness of our legacy nuclear command, control, and communications systems and the need to pursue updates to meet evolving needs. Can you discuss the implications for building a new system in light of the rapidly changing technologies like AI, quantum computing, and machine learning? And also, could you elaborate to the extent that you're able to, in an open setting, are we building an adaptable architecture with the workarounds necessary to, to adapt to future tech and modernization?
So, Senator, over the last 6 months, I've dug into that very deeply, much deeper than I would ever expect a combatant commander to have to do that. That's because on the 3rd of October, the Secretary of Defense put me in charge of the Nuclear Command and Control Enterprise. Mm-hmm. And I'm responsible for operations requirements and system engineering of that enterprise now. And so I felt the need to go out and look at how we're doing today, and I understand that pretty well. But then I have to define now how we're going to do it in the future in this very challenging cyber threat environment that we're walking into. So I have some ideas. I formed those ideas as I've gone through. It basically, the broad-based structure of that idea is develop a number of pathways for a message to get through that is so nearly infinite that nobody can ever figure out exactly where it is or deny the ability for that message to get through. That's the way to do things in the future, and I think we'll have the means to do that. I'd have to talk about it at a much more classified level to get into the details. So I've gone out to industry. I've gone out to the federally funded research and development corporations, and I've asked them to come in with ideas. Just last week, they delivered those ideas to me. We're going to now evaluate those ideas and come up with a broad-based set of mission needs that we need to explore, and then I'll work back with industry to figure out how to do that. And then the services, the Army and the Navy, in this case, will actually build them.
Have you thought about also going out to some of our national laboratories? I know they fall under the DOE, but in Illinois we have both Fermilab and Argonne with quantum computing capabilities, currently pretty high up on the spectrum of quantum computing capabilities. But without major investments, we're going to fall behind in that.
You bet, and I have gone to the national labs. I went to the national labs, the federally funded research and development corporations, the university affiliated research corporations, all those elements looking for best ideas. And I did that individually because I found when I brought everybody together in a room, the answer ended up looking like it used to. And when I kept everybody separately, everybody had very, very innovative answers. So now we're going to have to figure out how to capture this innovation and move forward effectively. But I have reached out to the DOE labs as well as the UARCs and the FFRDCs.
Thank you. I also want to delve a little deeper with both of you into something General O'Shaughnessy mentioned in his written testimony. General, when discussing the potential cumulative effects of Chinese and Russian advanced threat technologies such as hypersonics and cyber efforts, and you've mentioned them here, you said, and I quote, collectively, these advanced technologies could be capable of creating strategic effects with non-nuclear weapons, potentially affecting national decision-makings and limiting response options in both peacetime and crisis. Now, we're very focused, and we've had quite a discussion today on nuclear strategic deterrent at the moment, which, to be clear, I don't have a problem with it. I, in fact, do think that we need to modernize our nuclear arsenal. But my concern and question for you both is around our own non-nuclear strategic deterrence. Would you increase investments on our end, whether in hypersonics, cyber, conventional prompt global strike weapons, other new technologies, ever to reach a level of providing a credible deterrent against Chinese and Russian nuclear activities as we suggest they may be attempting with us? And how do we balance that with the real need to continue our investments in the nuclear realm?
Sure. One, thanks for the opportunity to respond to that question, because I think it's really it's right in line with the NDS, and as the NDS has articulated, the changing security environment. One of the things that's really fundamentally changed is the strategic deterrence as it applies to the conventional aspect. And so as we look at that, as General Hyten mentioned, the cost imposition. In other words, we have to be able to impose a cost if we're going to be able to deter. But there's also, especially on the conventional side, you have to be able to actually deny them their objectives. And so it's a combination of both of those together. Imposing costs, denying their objectives, and then be able to credibly communicate that to them so they understand that from a deterrent standpoint, that there's absolutely not even worth going down that path. And so in order to do that, though, it's going to take an investment in just the areas that you mentioned. We have to have our own hypersonic capability, and we also have the ability to defend against those advanced threats.
And we're able to reach those capabilities if we make these investments?
If we make those investments is a key part of your statement. Yes, ma'am.
General Hyten?
And I agree with General O'Shaughnessy. I think one of the most important things you said, though, is that you recognize that the strategic deterrence in the 21st century is wholly different than it was in the 20th century. It's not just about nuclear weapons. It's multipolar now. It's not just the Soviet Union. It's Russia, China, North Korea. You have to worry about all the domains. You have to worry about nuclear, space, cyber, and conventional. And you have to figure out how to integrate all those together. At STRATCOM, we formed an academic alliance with 35 different universities to try to get them to start thinking about what is really needed in order to do this, not just in the technology side, but a policy and a strategy side as well.
Thank you, General.